Okay, let's take a look at eicosanoids. Now, these eicosanoids, these are local hormones that are released by all cells. So when you have a cell membrane, a phospholipid membrane, you got a nucleus. Within the cell membrane wall, we have these eicosanoids that exist. And the two biggies that we're going to focus on are leukotrienes and prostaglandins. And they come from something called arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid is a type of acid that exists in the wall of the cell membrane. And from arachidonic acid, our bodies can make leukotrienes or prostaglandins, both involved with inflammation in some degree. Prostaglandins, women know this well because the smooth muscle contraction of the uterus during that time of month when your monthly bill comes, that's a result of prostaglandins. So if you take an Advil or an aspirin or something, that's a prostaglandin blocker. You block the prostaglandins, and now your cramps go away because the smooth muscle contraction of the uterus isn't happening. But prostaglandins are also needed to help produce mucus in the stomach. So if you have the esophagus and here's the stomach, and you have this layer of mucus along the walls of the stomach, that's good because mucus protects the stomach. Remember, the stomach has lots of hydrochloric acid in HCl. You got hydrochloric acid. So the acid gets buffered by the mucus. But if you take prostaglandin blockers, if you take Aleve or aspirin, you don't have the mucus layer. If you don't have the mucus protecting the stomach, but you have hydrochloric acid, guess what you get? You get an ulcer. That's why taking too much of that can cause stomach ulcers. Prostaglandins help create fevers. So when you take an aspirin or an Aleve or Tylenol, these are prostaglandin blockers, you can decrease your fever. If you prostaglandins are involved in clotting and in platelet function. If you take aspirin and baby aspirin, you block platelets and you bleed. Okay, so ibuprofen, NSAIDs, right? Anything that's designed to treat pain can also lower your fever. Those are all prostaglandin blockers. So arachidonic acid, this is metabolized to produce inflammatory mediators. So this arachidonic acid is coming from your cell membrane. It's pulled out of the cell membrane wall, and from it you can get prostaglandins or leukotrienes. Prostaglandins are involved in pain and inflammation and swelling. And that's why if you take aspirin or ibuprofen or Celebrex, that's a COX-2 inhibitor, if you block the enzymes, right, in order to convert arachidonic acid into prostaglandins, we need enzymes to make that conversion. It's called cyclogenase 1 or cyclogenase 2, or for short, COX-1 and COX-2. So you can block the COX-1 pathway with aspirin and ibuprofen. You could block the COX-2 pathway with Celebrex. If you block them, you don't get prostaglandin production. If you can't produce prostaglandins, guess what happens to your pain, inflammation, and swelling? It all goes down. From arachidonic acid, you can get leukotrienes. This is the LOX pathway, lipoxygenase. If you take a lipoxygenase blocker, you can't produce leukotrienes. This is more of like your asthma. This is like the airways, your breathing airways, your bronchioles. So when you have too much leukotrienes, you still have inflammation, but you get bronchoconstriction or airway obstructions. If we block the leukotrienes, then you can breathe much, much better. So this is a little bit of some background to how we can manipulate and influence prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Now, there's foods that are really high in arachidonic acid. Peanut butter is really high in arachidonic acid. Um, foods, let's see, foods that are not grass fed. So if you're eating animal byproducts, but it's not grass fed, they have lots of arachidonic acid. Okay.